Hey, I'm Joshua Jarvis, and today I want to talk to you about the 4 leadership traits that every great leader has. And when I did the research on these traits, I really was kind of surprised by these traits because when I think of leaders, just leaders as the word, I think of people that are in leadership positions, like the president, or people that are in politics, or pastors, and those sort of things. And this list really surprised me because some of these items on this list are not what I would consider this doesn't match up with the traits that I see in these people from a public perspective. But before we get into the leadership traits, what we really need to talk about is what a trait is versus a value. Now, and that's important in distinction because these traits, these research traits, these aren't just like me spouting off words at you. This has been researched, and it's been researched over many years. And hundreds of thousands of participants by Kousez and Posner. Actually, it was mentioned in the Leadership Challenge as far as the book goes, and so it's very, very important that this stuff is true, but there's a kind of a twist to it. So if you've already read my blog, you kind of already know where I'm going with this, but leadership traits versus leadership values is very important. So a trait is something that is a description. It can be in the moment. It can be somebody, you could say someone's honest. So a criminal, confessing to lying and cheating and stealing, a criminal could be being honest in that moment. And you would say, hey, he's exhibiting honesty. He has the trait of honesty, right? Because it's in the moment, it's a description. Now, a value is something that is an inner motivator. So someone who says, I am honest as a value, that person is honest almost to a fault. And what I mean by that is that someone, so I value honesty. And so I would say I have an honest value, and I've made a mistake. And, in a court case, you're not supposed to admit that you're wrong, right? Because that hurts your case. But in my case, I probably would, because it feels like it violates some sort of personal principle. And that's the difference between a value, that's a sort of admitting fault, right, for honesty, versus just the trait of being honest in that moment. Okay, so these are leadership traits that were measured, right? So these are researched and measured, and so this is important to have, but just understand that they have it in it sort of this context, right? So the context is the biggest deal. So the first one is honesty, right? So honesty is the number one trait that any employee, any follower wants from their leader. They want honesty. And so typically when I think of great leaders that I like to follow, I want authentic, honest leaders. And so you think about politicians from a standpoint, but honesty is really not the first thing you think about. But that's not a value that they have to have. It's a trait that they have to exhibit. And what I mean by that is when they make the promises, do you think they're being honest about the promises they're making, or do you think they're lying? And I think in general, what's disappointing to us is when they talk to us, it's that we think they're telling the truth and then they don't follow through with it. So our expectations aren't met, and that's really why we're disappointed in the leaders. It's not that they weren't being honest when they talk to us. We thought they were being honest, and we get fooled every time. And the reason why we get fooled is because they're exhibiting these traits, right? So one of the number one traits is honesty. The other one is a vision or forward thinking. And so when you combine honesty with a vision or forward thinking, and someone's casting a very, very clear vision, and that's the important part of this, is that there's a clear vision that you can see where we're going to go. So like when Obama won, it was change. Like one word gave you everything you needed to know about what his campaign was all about, was change. Like that was just amazing. Make America great again. Whether you liked it or not, it gave a very clear vision of what Donald Trump wanted to do. Like he wanted to go back to, conservative values or whatever. And so, and those are just 2 examples in the politics world, but there are many examples where the vision of the leader is that's what makes a leader you want to follow. Is he's got a clear vision. I want to go there. And there's a great saying that says basically, if you want leaders to stay in your organization, so you want to lead leaders, then you have to cast a vision big enough for them to fit their vision inside. And in other words, if I've got a group of followers, but I want to follow someone else, then I need to have, that person has to have a vision big enough for me to achieve my goals, my dreams, for my group, right? And that's why vision is so important. The other one is competence. And again, this is one of those ones where, you think about the leaders, and I'm talking about politics particularly, you think, well, I don't seem really that competent, right? And because social media, we see people sort of bashing them, talking about their intelligence or lack thereof, and it's just one of those things where competence to get the job done. So when in one of the elections, they say, well, he's not electable. And it might be that he was able to cast a vision. It might be that he was even being honest. He believed he could do it, but he might not have come off as competent because he didn't have the experience. So electability doesn't have, it's one of those things that, for a leadership trait, that is key, that you have to actually believe that person can get the job done. Can they have a great vision? Are they just repeating other people's visions? Are they being honest? Do they actually believe they can do it? So kind of competence, you can see how these all are intertwined. And the last one is that they're inspiring. And I don't mean inspiring in a sense that they're charismatic, although that could help. And charisma actually has very little to do with being an effective or a great leader. Now, how charisma can do is have your perception that they're a better leader than they are. And I think having Gary Vaynerchuk's charisma is not required to be a great leader, but being inspiring is. And that comes back to your competence and your vision, and you're being honest about the whole process, being authentic in the moment. Again, not a value, a trait. And so can you have that trait of being inspiring someone to move? Sometimes that inspiration to move isn't this lofty goal of integrity and values, but sometimes it is. Sometimes that inspiration is that someone has accomplished something and you want to go there. So Richard Branson might be very inspiring as a leader because he's accomplished so much, but it might not be inspiring at all from a communication standpoint. And I don't really know. I'm not. This isn't about Richard Branson. This is an example. And so, what does those four things create? Why would someone say they're a great leader? What makes them an effective leader when they have these four traits? And that is credibility. The credibility is what these four things sort of create and give that leader the opportunity to actually lead. And so what I would say is that if you are listening to this video and you're like, okay, Josh, it's great, you give me these four traits, is that if you're in an organization and you're leading, is that you want to make sure that you're always being authentic and being honest about the project, being honest about the situation. It doesn't mean that you have to be, give out more information than maybe you want to, but being very honest about the situation. It means that you also need to be inspiring. You need to try to motivate people to do what you want them to do, and you're going to do that by being, like I said, by being honest, by casting the vision, and also by being incredibly competent. And sometimes you may not have that competence, that you don't have to be competent in this particular field that you're in, but that you would hire an expert that is. And that's an important distinction between someone that is competent in this particular field that they're in versus someone who knows how to get the answers they want, right? And that was a great saying by Henry Ford. It's like, I don't have to be the genius. I have a button right here who can bring in genius in the room. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would love it if you liked it. I would love it if you subscribe to these videos. It would tell me I need to make more because you like them. And if you have suggestions for any videos or that you'd like me to talk about something else, then please put those in the comments, message me anywhere where you see this. And thanks so much for watching, and make it a great day.